Hello, welcome back. It's been a long time, and today we're gonna do something a little different. We're going to talk about concert etiquette. I hope that this will serve as a tutorial for those of you planning to attend a concert, general admission show, and hope to be front row on the barrier.
That's right, gang. So we're going to go over a couple things, and as you can see, we're at Amplified today.
Good venue.
If you've ever been to Dallas, check out Amplified. Lots of really cool shows here. We're actually going to film this in the back where they've got the barrier makeshift set up for us. So we're going to go over a couple of things today. We're going to go over what concerts should it look and feel like if you're seated, indoor, outdoor, or to Rodrigo's point, also front row general admission seats, how to prepare for that, and what to expect. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, guys, so maybe you're planning to go to a show. Maybe it's your first concert and you're a little nervous, right? It's okay. How should you plan, right? What should you expect? I think, or we hope to answer some of those questions for you and hopefully be able to help you.
Great. So, one of the things I think are important in planning are if you're traveling to a show, make sure that you've got hotel accommodations well in advance, or Airbnb, whatever that looks like.
Right.
Another thing that you would want to plan for, regardless whether you're local or not, is driving there. How are you actually going to get to the event, the venue? Plan for traffic, plan to park if you are driving, and how far that's going to be, how much is that going to cost, how long is it going to take to walk.
You might actually want to carpool.
That's a great point.
It'll save you money on the parking.
Yep, absolutely. That's actually a great call out there.
Maybe you'll want to take an Uber.
Yeah, there's a lot of venues that have preset locations for Uber, so that's also a great way to get there, right? In addition to that, you'll also want to find out exactly where the entrances are. You want to do a little bit of homework, look at the venue, find out where your exits, entries are, what section you're going to sit in, and how to get there.
Right. And that opens up what kind of tickets do you have seats? Is it seated? Is it general admission? And then of course, what kind of venue will this be at? Is it an outdoor venue where you may be exposed to the elements like rain or shine? Or is it an indoor venue where maybe it's climate controlled or conditioned? I always like those. Those are always good.
Agreed. Gang, so if you actually go to an outdoor event, the elements are out there, whether it's hot or cold, so you'll want to make sure to prepare even for precipitation, right? That at the end of the day, the show must go on, right? The artist will still perform regardless of what's going on outside. So prepare, look at the weather, find out what you need to bring to condition yourself for, and also have a positive experience while you're out there, right? All right, so next let's talk about your experience at a concert. If this is your first concert, what should you really anticipate? If you're going to be in seated seats, you're probably okay. They're pretty secure and have their own dedicated space where you won't get trampled or shoved or whatnot. So that's pretty much the safest way to go for a first-time experience.
Right. You can use a restroom at leisure.
Yep.
You can sit down if you get tired. You can take a break, go get a drink, go get snacks, food, come back, and your seat will be there. I will say that the merchandise is a thing to consider as well. If you have seats, you're probably okay to get any kind of merchandise, t-shirts, anytime during the show, preferably at the beginning, so items don't sell out.
And they will sell out, gang. So one thing to consider when you do go to the merchandise lines, they are long. Plan to spend a little bit of time there. My recommendation is to do it early if you're seated. If you're GA or a festival, something along those lines, it's at your discretion on how you want to manage that. You know, there's pros and cons to doing it during or after or even before the show. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit.
Yeah. The other thing you want to consider is, even though they are seats, do expect the people around you to be standing. So don't be upset if the people in front of you are standing and you plan to sit through the whole show.
Right.
I'm one of the ones that stand, so I'm sorry if I block your view.
So if you're sitting there with nachos, enjoy your nachos and then get up if someone's in front of you, right? At the end of the day, everyone's there to have a good time.
Right.
But no one goes to a show intentionally for the purpose of, I'm going to block someone's view.
Right.
People are just excited about the artist, right? So, and also, speaking of the artist, it really depends on the kind of show it is. And we'll say if you go see a metal show, you may see a little bit more passion, a little bit more standing, versus you go see
A jazz.
jazz concert or classical Trans-Siberian or something, then most people are just going to be seated. So it just depends on the type of artist that's performing, right?
Right.
You know, and I touched on festivals. If you go to a festival, if it's your first time, be sure to go with someone who has been to festivals so that they understand the dynamic, what the environment looks like. You don't want to get into that kind of crowd, especially if it's your first time and you've got no guide. It can be incredibly dangerous and be a negative experience for you. And at the end of the day, everyone needs to be safe, right?
Right. All right, guys, so general admission. So general admission is something truly special, but you really have to think about where you want to stand. How do you want to enjoy the show? Do you want to be front row in front of the stage where there's no one between the band and you? Or do you want to be in the mosh pit where all the madness is out? Are you a mosh pit kind of person? Or do you want to just float around? Be able to go get a beer, come back and just float wherever you want? You have to think about this before the show, because if you plan on being front row, then there's definitely a lot to consider and to prepare for.
Yeah, you know, and what we're talking a little bit more is geared a little bit for metal shows. They can get very excited, very passionate fans as well. So that's kind of the things that you'll see there, right? So things that you'll want to, so what we're going to talk now about is specifically front row. So how to get there, what that's going to look like, what to bring. So you'll want to determine how early to get there. So a lot of that will be determined by what the first row opportunity looks like. And
now,
what I mean by
let
that
me make
is,
a stop,
Sure.
because every band might be different. I've been to a lot of different shows, front row, some of which have had to queue up 3 days in advance. There's bands that offer exclusive front row to fan club, for example. So that's something that you'll want to think about. There's bands that you'll have to pay to get front row. So if you show up and you spend the whole day there, and then you find out that the band will allow 30, 40, 50 people get early entry into the venue, then you're in for a surprise and possibly disappointment. I've actually had that happen to me before, where I showed up bright and early and I was probably number 10 in line, and then an hour before doors open, I find out that the fan club for that specific band will allow early entry for their fans. So you'll want to think about what band you're going to go see, and then every band is just going to be a little bit different. Some bands,
do your homework, gang. So whatever artist it is you're going to visit, make sure to visit their website, find out if there's any kind of early access entry, because that will benefit you, especially if you're trying to get front row. Otherwise, it's a shot in the dark. Also, in addition to that, there are some bands that don't even have those options, and it's kind of first come, first serve. And with that said, dependent on the venue, some venues may have multiple entries, some may have just one primary. And then on top of that, they may not allow people to line up, which means they may have a lottery system, which means you walk up and they'll tell you that there's no lineup, here's a ticket, and come back an hour before the show or whatnot. And that's just blind luck. You could get there an hour before the show and get front row, or you could be there 10 hours and get last row. And do your homework, gang. It'll serve you very well if you just plan for it.
Visit the band's website and the venue. Every venue is going to be a little bit different.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about if you can line up and you are looking to secure front row. So you'll want to make sure to arrive in plenty of time. There is such a thing as too early, so you kind of have to gauge it. Look on the forums if there are any to find out what time lineups usually arrive. And bring something comfortable to wear. Bring lawn chairs to sit in, especially if you plan on being out there all day or more. Bring a tarp if possible, or umbrellas. Bring a cooler, bring water. At the end of the day, if you're going to be out there all day, you probably park pretty close, so going back and forth to your vehicle for supplies won't be that far-fetched.
Right. So prepare for the sun, sunscreen, wear the right clothes.
Yep.
And
blankets if it's cold. Just be smart about the environment. Do yourself a favor and look up the weather in advance.
all right, so now you're on the rail, front row. What now? What now, Joe?
Well, great question. So there's a lot of things you've got to consider now that you're at the rail. What you don't realize is behind you will be hundreds and hundreds of people all around you.
And they all want your spot.
They all want your spot. So we're going to talk a little bit about things that are of safety concerns to make sure that everyone has a safe experience.
An enjoyable experience.
So first thing is making sure that you have water. If you didn't get to bring water in, the security is going to be right in front of you, walking the gap between the rail and the stage. Just flag down a security guard and let them know if they can get some water for you. They're usually very accommodating in that aspect.
Be respectful to them. It's not their job to get you water, but my experience is that most of them are human beings and that they understand what it's like to be on the other side, so they will have water available if you ask nicely.
Right. Another thing is to be aware of needing to go to the bathroom. Now that you're at front row, going to the bathroom is probably not going to happen. If you end up going to the bathroom, you probably lost your spot and your entire day was shot and you just lost your ticket. So,
pro tip, sometime before doors open, maybe 2 hours before doors open, I personally stopped drinking any water, liquids, anything like that, any beer for sure, just so that, and you should all know your bodies, right? You'll kind of know yourself and you'll know how much to drink or how much not to drink or when to stop drinking, so that you can plan for those 2, 3, maybe 4 hours before the show is over.
Yeah, and I'll even go so far to add, if you need to wear adult wear, to your point, you know yourself, and if this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, there is no shame in that. Go for it, and plan is the name of the game at the end of the day here.
Or better safe than sorry, right?
Right.
Maybe just plan for it if you happen to need it, and if you don't, then it's okay.
Yep. Also, another thing I would say is be aware that it's going to be very packed. That means you're going to get heated pretty darn quick. So you're going to feel potentially some heat exhaustion, or maybe the crowd's too much and you might get too anxious and it may be uncomfortable for you. It is a-okay to tap out and say, I can't do this and I need to get out of this space.
Right.
If that happens, there's likely no way going back that way since it's too crammed. You're going to have to get pulled out by security. So again, just flag down security. They're all over the place, and let them know you need to be pulled out. That is something they are used to all day. Throughout the entire show, they pull people out that just need to tap out. Go sit down, go watch it from somewhere else if you need to. It is A-okay. You gave it a shot, and better to be safe than sorry.
Right.
It's not worth a visit to the hospital.
Right. Safety. Be mindful of those around you as well. If you see that someone is having a hard time, someone might need water, and that person might not be able to flag down security for water. So be nice. You could help them out, right? It's okay to say, hey, security, I think this gentleman back here needs help. And it could save someone's life. You never know.
Absolutely. Be prepared to, if someone next to you passes out, be prepared to help them up and pass them over to security. It happens all the time. Just do yourself a favor and keep an eye on each other. Keep an eye on your neighbors. They'll do the same for you. All right, gang. So next we're going to talk a little bit more about specific environments, and what that entails are a few things. So let's say that your second row, for example, which still a pretty good view, right? But let's say that the person in front of you is very tall, taller than you. So one thing you want to do is maybe shift over to the side a little bit. So, because if you're right in back of them, you're not seeing anything. Maybe shift over to the side a little so you can see in between the person next to him.
You'll have to find those gaps, and then it's okay to move around if the people that are in front of you are just not enjoying the show. It's okay to try to shift to the left or to the right. And try to find that comfort spot for you.
Right, and the flip side of that coin also is, let's say that the person is much shorter than you, right in back of you, and they can't see a darn thing. You may get asked, hey, can we swap spots? It's A-okay to say no. You earned the right to be in your spot. You put the sacrifice in, you invested your time and money to be there. It is A-okay to say no. Just be very respectful to everyone, of course.
Right.
Next thing also I'd like to talk about is phone etiquette. So one thing I've seen at many shows is phone usage. So phone usage is A-okay if you're going to snap a few pics or videos, whatnot. But keep in mind, don't forget that you are there to see the show and not your phone. And before you know it, the concert's over and you didn't even see it because you were on your phone the other time. Or don't check into Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. There's plenty of time for that later. The artist will appreciate your attention. They are there for you. You are there for them. They're trying to make a connection with you, and they're here to perform for you specifically in that moment. If you're really interested in watching it on the screen, YouTube it and enjoy the show in real life.
It will for sure be on YouTube later on. Do not worry. Some of us have a rule to not touch the cell phone during the entire show.
I'm a fan of not touching your cell phone. I'll snap a couple of shots.
It's okay to snap a couple.
But otherwise, I want to see the show.
Right. The other thing is that if you hold the phone up in the air, you're also blocking someone's view. Which, it's okay, you earned your right to be there, but, again, be respectful, and at the end of the day, you're there to enjoy the show. Also, be aware of crowd surfing. This could happen, Maybe you're enjoying the show, and then you feel something kick you in the back of the head, and you're like, whoa, what was that? Was that someone's, no, that was was that someone's boot?
So yeah, that happens a lot, gang. So if you see a crowd surfer or you feel them, you're not gonna know it until they're practically on you. Just lift them right over. Security will take them to the other side, and more than likely 5 minutes later, they'll come back around and they'll lift them over again. But it's okay. It's a thing that they do. Just anticipate for those things. And if you have a neighbor that isn't so much of a fan of that and you need to guard them, just make sure to recover for them also. And speaking of people at events, I meant to touch on this earlier. I'm going to touch on it for just a moment. Parents out there, if you want to bring your kiddos to the show, make sure that they are of age and will truly enjoy it. I've seen many times where a parent will drag their kid to one of their favorite artists, and I just see kids just miserable, and the parents are just happy as they can be. At the end of the day, being a cool parent is being a responsible parent. So make sure you're placing the right judgment when you bring your kiddos to a show, especially if you're going front row or anything on the floor for that matter.
You'll probably want to get seats because kids will need to use a restroom. They will get thirsty. They will get hungry. So seats are probably a much better option if you are planning to bring kids.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you know, an event end to end is about 4 to 5 hours. So if you feel comfortable taking your kid to a movie that's 5 hours long and they're going to sit there, cool. But if that's the answer is no, you might want to question your judgment there.
So another thing that you'll want to be mindful of is that bands, musicians, artists will usually toss guitar picks, drumsticks at the very end of the show. So those are artifacts. They are very valuable. So you'll want to be mindful of that. Those are definitely little trophies that you can take home with you. So something to expect are guitar picks throughout the show, and then at the end of the show you'll probably see drumsticks, and if you're gonna go see Iron Maiden, then you can expect some wristbands at the end of the show. Again, these are trophies. If the person next to you asks if they could keep it, it's okay to say no, unless it's me, and then you can just hand it over to me.
Yeah, gang, so as you can imagine, when these get thrown out, you're going to see a swarm of hands, arms trying to reach for it. At the end of the day, some lucky person is going to get it, and congratulate that win. At the end of the day, don't fight over it. It's not worth fighting over. And I've never been to a concert where anyone, you know, curls over something that they grabbed or thought they had or whatnot. It's a win for everyone, so make the best of it. All right, gang, so now we're going to talk about very specific scenarios at a front row show that you can expect and what to do when these things absolutely happen. So for those of you who are attending a front row show for the first time, or maybe it's your dozenth time, whatever the case is, there's some really good techniques that we're going to share with you on how to make this an incredibly positive experience for you. So the first item we're going to talk about today is trading spaces, and that comes in two forms.
Right. So first you have to be conscious of the fact that people are going to be pushing you, and it's okay. You know, we're all trying to enjoy the show, but too much can be too much. So trading spots. The first scenario will be, what if you're attending the show by yourself, or maybe you are attending the show with your wife or your girlfriend or your best friend, right? And maybe the person next to them is pushing too much, right? I will trade spots with my wife or my friend and push back on that person. The other scenario...
So before we move from that, let's actually perform an example of what that would look like. So you'll need to make sure that you're in constant communication. If I experience something like that on this side, and let's say I need to swap with Rodrigo, then I'll say, hey man, can you swap me? This person's just way too aggressive for me to manage. Then we'll swap. So keep in mind, if we swap and we move our spot, someone behind me or that person that's pushing is going to grab that space right there, and I'm going to just angle down so you can see that this rail space right here. So we want to make sure that we're securing this space and no one gets it. So we'll have to be very
overlap with each other.
Right.
You'll want to get in front of the person next to you.
And I'm going to grab over here, and now we're swapping. We still have the same space that we secured, but we did a smooth transition by reaching all the way over, not allowing anyone else to grab that spot, and vice versa. So that's one version of a swap. Now there's another version of a swap scenario, for example. So I'll actually introduce that one. So just like Rodrigo said, let's say that you're there by yourself or with a buddy or whatever that looks like, and someone next to you says, hey, would you mind swapping me spots? I've always wanted to watch the show from there, and it'd be really awesome if we could just swap spots. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's only one spot. It's only 2 feet. What big deal is that, right?
Sometimes it makes a big difference. If you are standing in front of the monitors, it could be overwhelming. Or if you want to stand in front of the guitar player because you just want to watch the guitar player do his magic, right? So it could make a big difference. Be mindful of what the consequence would be, and it's okay to say no.
It's absolutely okay to say no, because here's what can happen. 30 minutes later, that person that swapped spots with you is now in the center of the entire stage because they conned everyone to swap one spot. Don't fall for it. It's a sucker punch. It's a complete con. And it's a complete trick. So do not fall for that trick. You earned the spot to be there. Don't give it away to someone else.
Right.
All right. So the next 2 scenarios are very common at a front row show. The first one is called Drunk Guy. Now, what Drunk Guy does is makes it incredibly uncomfortable for you. Guess what? Drunk Guy isn't drunk, but Drunk Guy's objective is to make it very uncomfortable for the person in front of him.
So I'm done. Come on.
And I can get clearance to that. Now, Drunk Guy started 10 rows back, and he's been working his way by doing this. Woo! Woo! He's not hitting you. He's not hitting you, but he's motioning all around you and making it very uncomfortable for you. Now, since he's not technically harming you, security's not going to do anything about that, so you can't get security involved in that. The only thing you can do is not budge and not acknowledge him, because eventually he's going to realize that doing all this mess and noise isn't going to get you to move. So what Drunk Guy's going to do,
he's going to look for someone else to do it.
He's going to keep moving until someone falls for his trick, which is moving out of his way so that he can get your spot. He's not drunk. He's just trying to con you. All right.
I'm drunk. Yeah.
All right. Next, let's talk about sexy person. And sexy person is someone who is very nice looking. Male or female, doesn't matter.
Sexy girl.
Whatever, right? And what happens is, if you can please, I will be playing the role of a very petite, nice looking young lady, and I will be very leaning on the person in front of me. Well, what might very well happen is you might be a gentleman and allow me access.
Ma'am, please.
Oh, well, thank you. Honey, or my friend, let's go. And before you know it, you're in the back, and me and my friends that got here 30 minutes ago just took your spot that you waited 10 hours to get.
Yeah, this happens. I have a friend that fell for it.
Happens.
You know you are.
Happens all the time, gang. Don't fall for it. It is a sucker play. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. You earned the right. You made the sacrifice. You made the investment to be here all day. Do not let someone else take that spot from you. It's okay to say no.
All right, guys, so the next thing you'll want to think about is how to protect your spot. Now, this happens very, very often. If you are enjoying the show and you're thinking, yeah, by the time you lift your hands, yeah.
Oh, someone just reached in and grabbed that spot, and I'm not letting go now.
What could happen? Now I have to shift a little bit more, but there's someone on my other side. So now I'm reduced to this tiny little spot, and I'm getting pushed here, I'm getting pushed over here, and then I lose my spot.
Bye. I just got your spot. Thanks. So that's what I call a arm over. So when someone reaches over and grabs that rail, they're looking to make a move on your spot. Do not let that happen. So a good way to, you can't just elbow someone or, you know, throw a fist back. You gotta nudge them back. So Rodrigo, nudge me with your hips. Or look at that. See, he just did it with his shoulders. So you're gonna nudge back like that, or you're gonna with your shoulders. So basically, he didn't hit me, he just nudged me, and that's a-okay, because at the end of the day, they nudged forward, you just nudged back.
Now when that happens, you gotta watch where that person's hand is, and guess what? If your hand is right here and their hand is right over here, if I move my hand to get away from theirs, they're gonna keep moving you over and over and over and over until you're left out of space. So it might not seem like a big deal, but every little bit counts. So protect it, and be careful of that.
All right, gang, so next we're gonna talk about how to lock with your neighbor. And we're gonna show 2 ways to lock. One from your arms and then from your legs, so that you can stay secure and stand your ground at the event. So take a look what we're gonna do here. We're gonna lock our arms and then legs so that basically no one can get through our physical barrier. So we're right here at the rail. Now things are gonna get a little crazy, and maybe we feel like people are trying to get in. So we'll make the, hey, we need a lock, and we'll cross over and also step over each other's legs.
So now
No
here.
one's getting through. Now you won't have to stay like this through the entire show,
right,
but sometimes you have to do this so that you can stand your ground.
This will be necessary if things get a little crazy, like turbulence at an airplane, but it will pass, and then it's okay to go back to your normal position.
Right, right. And one of the final things I'd like to talk about is when to get security involved. Now, there can be times where someone may get a little too aggressive and get physical. When that does happen, and I say when, not if, when that does happen, make sure that you flag security down and report the incident immediately. If you get clocked, clobbered, whatnot, I'm not talking about pushing, I'm talking about if you get popped, get security involved, and they will absolutely pull and remove that person from the event entirely. Don't put up with things that you don't need to. At the end of the day, everyone needs to be respectful. Everyone's going to be in very close quarters. It's going to get tight. It's going to get hot. It's going to get uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean it's okay for people to hit each other. So if you see that experience for someone else, get security involved. There is no need or cause for that.
Right.
All right, gang. So we're back in front of Amplified now, and I want to leave everyone with a couple of thoughts on my end. Make sure that you keep an eye on that rail. Keep your arms strong. Don't let your eyes off of that rail for just a second. Someone will steal it the second you take your eyes off it. And I guarantee you, people are watching you the entire time, waiting for you to slip up and give them an inch.
Right. So I hope this helped all of you get an idea of what to expect at a show. And I hope it was valuable and it can help you all enjoy the show. Rock on.
We'll see you all at the show.